Rico, I'ma have a flashback. Digging through the dresser like fuck it, where my mask at? The mash back with the banger and damage shit. And say fuck everything I learned in anger management. Hop back on some east side Dannon shit. And push a nigga's top back when I let the cannon spit. Start planning shit, premeditation. I'm in love with the streets again, rededication.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994 I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I done 24 years straight in the California prison system. During that time I accumulated some good stories, some good insight on the penitentiary, and I also ran across some good dudes, man. In the event you happen to like this interview, then definitely be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to my page, and also hit that notification bell. That way anytime I drop a story, you will be notified ASAP, and you can hop on it immediately. Now, so today, I got one of my good partners, man. I was locked up, he done a gang of time, I believe about 28 years, man. So, Johnny, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Johnny Baker. I did 28 years straight. I had 34 years of double life consecutive, ended up doing 28 years straight on that.
So, tell us a little bit about like where you grew up at and all that.
I grew up on the east side, about the 30s. Originally from the west side, but we moved on the east side. Then that's where I grew up at on the east side.
You got an older brother, younger?
Yeah, I got 2 older brothers, 3 older sisters. I'm the youngest. Got 6 siblings.
What age did you get caught up in, did you turn to the streets and all that stuff? I got caught up in the streets at I guess it's a little late than normal because, some people start off like 8, 7, 8, 9, but I didn't get really into the streets about maybe 13, 14. That's when I really took to the streets and, start participating in gang activities. So if you don't mind, like, where was you from out there?
30 Pyro, Bloodstone Pyro, off the 30s.
So was you the only one in your family banging, or?
No, I got 2 older brothers. They were from Hoover, though. 74 Hoover, which is ironic, my brothers being from Hoover, one of the reasons I chose to be a down because at that time, I didn't think that my brothers would accept me, but they were trying to protect me. So they were trying to shield me from being in a gang member. But at that time, I thought they was like rejecting me. So I was like, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna be a blood, and just to upset them.
Kind of like shocked you. So like when you said they was rejecting you, kind of didn't want you to kick it with them and stuff like that when they was out in the streets. Yeah,
pretty much. Because like again, my mom's moved to the east side from the west side. So my brother, my 2 older brothers, they would migrate back over there to the west side. Plus I was so young, they didn't want me hanging with them, so I couldn't, go with them. So I was just left in the neighborhood to fend for myself.
So like, what age you say were you at when you really just started getting into the, the deep gang banging, suited and booted out there doing your stuff?
I don't know, maybe like 14, like 14, 15 when I really started like out there, acting, because like this is in the 80s, so things was way different back then, so that's when, I started, wearing the cutters and really, doing all the things that we used to do back then. We used to have like gang fights at the school, meet up at the little local Jack in the Box and, do that kind of stuff,
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question, so you answered that. So that was about in the 80s somewhere?
Yeah, in the 80s.
Okay. And so then, like, you say eventually you end up going to prison for the first time.
Yeah, the first time I went to prison was 1987.
So what was that like when you first hit the county and all that stuff?
It was a little scary to me, going to the county jail. I know it wasn't a lot of down moves back then, so I didn't really know what to expect. But they had the gang mileage was 4,300 back then, so I ended up going to 4,300, and it was like nothing but bloods in there. But there was a lot of drama going on there too within the bloods. It was like a lot of beef up in there, which was really strange to me because it's all bloods in here, and yeah, we getting into it with one another.
Right. So I mean, okay. Do you think? Let me ask you a couple questions. One, do you think like the reason that you guys was beefing with each other is because basically it's like, gang banging is kind of like predicated on fear, and I'm the toughest individual. So when there's enemies around, we're gonna pray on our own, like pray on our own.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was, because you might have, well, back then, the way they did it, we had like Abel Road, Baker Road, Denver Road, and Shotty Road. So they might have had like Bounty Hunters on one road, Power Rules on one road. When I say Power Rules, it's all Power Rules mixed. You know, from it don't matter if you claim Compton, the Bottoms, whatever. You know, everybody was just all on one road. You know, they might have neighborhood 20s. You know, then they had other gangs mixed together. You know what I mean? So like that. That's what basically why it was.
So at the end of the day, the bullies and the tough guys and the dudes in there banging, pushing the line, they gonna need somebody to fuck with. Whether it's Crips, whether it's Bloods, they gotta satisfy their need to basically put their foot in the motherfucker's ass, right?
Pretty much. That's how it was, and that's one of the things that I didn't like when I was in there, because it was like little small gangs or people who wasn't like, you know, it's everybody that's in a gang not tough. You know what I mean? So you have the dudes who play like Monster Cody. I ended up reading the Monster Cody book a long time ago, and he broke it down, you know, which made a lot of sense to me. He broke it down to like 4 categories. You have the guys who, you know, dress the part. Then you have the dudes who sell drugs. You have the dudes who write on the wall. You have dudes that did those type of things. So the guy who's selling drugs and writing the wall, they ain't putting in work. They ain't fighting. They ain't doing all of that kind of stuff. So when you come to the county jail and you known for writing on the wall and selling dope, you know, so people they're gonna get at you.
Right.
You know, they're gonna test your hand in there.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this too, because I heard like back in the days as opposed to now. Now, you know, everybody's damn near into it with everybody, all the gangs. But back in the days, you know, I heard that it was a lot of blood love, and just being a blood could get you a pass in any blood hood back then. You could go on a whole different side of town. It was blood love and all that.
Absolutely. You can go to San Diego. You can go to Sacramento if you was a blood, and you know you didn't have to know these dudes. You was gonna be welcome. But now you can't even go around the corner to the next blood neighborhood and be welcome. Now it's different.
And what's your thought on just like today's gang banging overall? You know, especially things like that coming from an era when there was a lot of unity amongst the Bloods.
It's it's like heartbreaking to me, because you know, especially now, you know, I'm 54, so you know I was from Bloodstone Power Rule. So if a dude can't tell me that he wasn't no blood, and if he couldn't be a Power Rule back then, it wasn't no you a blood or a Power Rule. I was from Bloodstone Power Rule, so there wasn't no separating the two with me. So now with these dudes talking about, oh, I'm just a Power Rule, I'm not no blood, where they get that from? You know what I mean? So that's something that I don't really understand today. These new gangbangers today.
Yeah. And so what was LA County like? I always hear a lot of stories about LA County and stuff. Did you guys have any beefs with other races?
Nah, because you know, like, well, when I was in the gang module, it was just like the little in-house stuff in there. But like when you went to court, you have to be ready. You know what I mean? Because you know they still used to put us at that time. You were going to a regular tank, so you go in there, you shackled, and there's Crips in there who unhandcuffed. So it was different back then.
So back then, was it like, because you know nowadays it's not necessarily like that, but was it on site with the Crips when y'all seen them back then?
Absolutely. Even like although I'm from LA, you know, I call my case, I might go to Compton Court. So it's different. You're not going to LA County Court, you're going to a Compton Court. So it's different when you go to the tanks and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And so you go in the tank and, you know, they might unhandcuff you. Well, they'll take your cuffs off and all that. So it's going to be on site up in there.
Right. So just a lot of squabs, taking fades, all that.
Yeah, you got to get your hand game right.
Every time you go to court, expect that, huh?
You're going to get out every time you go to court. You're going to get out or you're going to get your ass whooped.
Yeah. So once you finally make your way to the penitentiary, what was that experience like for the first time?
It was scary, you know what I mean? Again, you know, I knew it wasn't a lot of dumb moves in the prison back then. You know, I remember like I say, my first time going to prison was '87. You know, I was 19, so when I get to prison, to Chino West, I went to Chino West. It was hardly no Bloods over there, you know what I mean? So I get there and I'm like, you know, and then they had us everybody spread it out. So you get to the dorm, you might be the only blood in that dorm. You might be some more blood scattered around there, but until you find out who they are, you by yourself.
Right.
So you already know that they finna come get you.
So was the Crips trying to press an issue on the Bloods back then?
Oh, they definitely was pushing the issue.
So okay, so when you pulled up, how long did it take for the Crips to discover that you was a Blood, and then how did that go?
Shit, they find out when you're in R&R, you know, because back then inmates ran the prisons back then. So you come through R&R, they gonna already know. So you know, by the time you get back to your dorm, to the yard, they already know you're there. So you don't even have a chance to unpack.
So I heard at one point in time back then they used to issue out blue rags or red rags and stuff like that. Was they still doing that when you hit?
Well, I don't remember that when I went to Chino in reception, but when I got to Jamestown, Jamestown was a fire camp. You know, so it was, you know, you get prepared to go to fire camp. They sent you to a fire camp up north back then, and they was giving out red bandanas up in Jamestown. That was part of your issue, your clothing issue.
So on your first sentence, how much time did you have? How much time you ended up doing?
I was sentenced to 5 years. I ended up doing 3 years off the 5.
So on that first experience, you got any like any situations or incidents that sticks out in your mind? Any like riots, squabs, any?
Definitely. Shit, I remember I hit the Tuolumne yard up in Jamestown, and the Crips came, and they was like they knew what kind of car I had, my name, who I was, all that shit. I'm like, I don't know who these dudes are. The hell they know me.
Yeah.
But apparently, it was somebody up there, a couple of Crips up there that knew me. So they told them who I was. So you know, when I hit the yard, they pushed up on me, you know, telling me I got to get off the yard. But of course, then you know. That's the last thing you do is roll up off the yard, so they was gonna have to fuck me up before I left, so I wasn't going nowhere, you know. So they ended up attacking me a couple of times, but you know, I ended up staying on that yard though.
Right. So so you was out there getting cracking on the street, you was active, and so your name, by just hearing about who you was, they was basically trying to get you up out of there. Huh?
Pretty much, you know what I mean. So I mean, that was something that I should like look forward to, you know, just being known, you know what I mean. So. Going to prison, you know what I mean, it kind of surprised me that cats knew who I was when I first hit the yard. I'm like, damn, I don't recognize any of these dudes. You know, it was dudes from Compton or some other, you know, watching something pushing up like, yeah, I know you, man, you road trip, man, you had the Burgundy Green with us. And I'm like, who the hell these dudes? How they know me? But, you know, made me feel good inside though.
Right. And plus, y'all got to keep in mind, right, this is before the days of the cell phones and the social medias and all that stuff. So when you out there getting cracking, your name was ringing. Basically, our social media basically was just writing on the wall and word of mouth, the grapevine. Yeah. So once you got out, what did you do once you finally made it home? You know, on that first one.
Shit, I did the same. I picked up right where I left off. You know what I'm saying? Gang banging, robbing, selling drugs, doing the same old stuff. I didn't learn a damn thing.
You didn't learn shit, huh?
How to be a better criminal. Well, not even a better criminal because I did the same stupid shit going back to prison. So.
Right.
You know.
So how long were you out before you end up catching the next case?
I stayed out 8 months.
8. And so in that time, you gang banging, you selling dope.
Well, I was gang banging, but at that time I thought I wasn't gang banging because I just did things differently. Prior to going to prison, I was out there with the cutters on, you know what I mean, with my pistol, you know what I mean, you know, doing all the stuff, all the wild stuff, you know what I mean, because I was 19.
Yeah.
Then when I got out, I was 22. So, you know, I thought I had matured a little bit, but I actually didn't. So, it's rather than to be out there with the khakis on and the bandanas, I just used to have on different attire, but I still was wearing a little bit of red, a little burgundy. You know what I mean? I was gang banging. I was just doing it in a different way.
Right. So now let's lead up to this next case that you end up catching, that you end up getting a life sentence on. So if you don't mind, give us a little bit like what led up to that and how did that all go down?
It was over money. You know, it was a good friend of mine. You know, people, you know, differ on this because even when I give my story, people be like, you know, how could I do something like that to someone I consider to be a friend? But that's just how it was back in those days. You know what I mean? Just as well as you was my friend, you could become my enemy, you know, at the drop of a dime. You know what I mean? If you cross me or if I cross you. So that's pretty much how that was. It was like a cat named Andre. You know, we was real good friends. He was like a big brother and mentor. And, you know, we was getting money together. We was hustling together. And, like, earlier on, you know, he was older than me, so he used to do things for me. And it was okay at that time. But now, you know, fast forward, you know, I got out, you know, I'm doing different things. I got a couple of kids to take care of now. So, you know, I'm out there, you know, instead of him giving me drugs, I'm buying drugs from him. And so I bought some drugs from him. Well, I attempted to buy some drugs from him, and he took my money, and he flipped my money, basically. So, you know, I'm like, you know, I've never thought he'd try something like that on me because that's something that you just don't do to anybody. You know, if me personally, if I consider somebody to be a friend of mine, I would never do you like that. I'm gonna ask you, see if it's okay with you before I just do something like that because, that was disrespectful. Taking my money, flipping my money because like he was going all day. So when I finally caught up with him, I'm like, what's happening, man? He was like, oh, they didn't come through. So when he gave my money back, it wasn't the same bills I gave him. I gave him like 150s. He gave me 20s and 5. So I'm like, man, this ain't the same money I gave you. So, he come with some old bullshit ass story, but me at the time, I'm greedy. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make this work for me. You know what I mean? You just gonna have to owe me some extra next time. So he's like, okay, so that's the deal we worked out. He gonna pay me extra on the back end. I said, okay. But then that turned out he didn't even want to straighten his hand on that. So he kept on bullshitting me on that. So I just moved on, then I got to, I hit a couple of rough patches.
Right.
And so I'm
got
like,
to think about that bread.
So now it's time to collect.
Yeah.
So, I try to reach out to him a few times, so he ignored me, ducking and dodging and all that. But, like I said, this is a good friend of mine, so I knew where he lived. He know where I live.
Right.
So I go to his house.
Let me just stop you right here. I hate to interrupt, but explain for those who may not know what you meant when you said he took your money and flipped it.
Okay, I gave him some money to purchase some narcotics from him. He took my money, told me he was going to purchase some narcotics, and he went and bought some drugs, and he flipped it. He did his thing.
So he basically went and bought a large quantity of drugs, sold that real. So he used your money to make money.
Make money.
Okay.
And I knew exactly what he did, and he did too. So that's why I said, okay, I'm gonna let you do that, but straighten me out on the back end. He was like, okay. So that was the deal. But then he's just like, I guess he decided he wasn't gonna give me shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So okay, so now we at the point of the story where you tired of playing games, you didn't hit a few rough patches, and then take us from there.
So I reached out to him a few times. He ducked and dodged me. So I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna come show up at his house unannounced. So that's the way I did things back in those days. You know what I mean? I wasn't playing no games, and he knew this, and I knew this. So when I showed up at his house, he feeling like a tough guy, you know what I mean? He was about his business, you know what I mean? So he got guns, I got guns, so he let me in.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when he let me in, I already knew what I was coming to do, you know. So I was going to leave up out of there with my money, or somebody was going to die that night. And then, I was hoping it wasn't going to be me.
Right.
So when I went in there, I had a conversation with him like, what's going on, man? What's going on with the bread? He's like, oh, man, I ain't got nothing. You same old bullshit. You know what I mean? I ain't got nothing for you, all some type of shit. I'm like, and that's what kind of weighed on me because I'm like, again, I really don't want to do what I came over there to do.
Right.
But I had already made up my mind. I gave myself permission to go make this happen. So when I get in there, he tell me he ain't got nothing. He playing the game. But then, just as greedy as I was, so was he. So another one of our friends, a mutual one of our friends, come over there to purchase some narcotics from him. He tell me he don't have nothing for me, but when my boy come over there to get something, he couldn't resist.
Right.
So he's selling man the drugs right in front of me.
Yeah.
So I look at the dude like, man, I know this dude and just do that. So now I already know what I'm finna do now.
Yeah.
So, but again, I guess he feeling himself, you know what I mean? Because he was armed unbeknownst to me, I don't know why I didn't think that he probably was gonna be armed, but he was. So I was like, I'm gonna let my boy Dennis leave. This is my partner Dennis. I let him leave, because he didn't have nothing to do with it. He come take care of his business. I let him leave. So initially, what I was gonna do is just gonna I don't even know why I thought about this, but I was gonna just punch on one of his partners up in here.
Yeah.
And shake him up. But
he had somebody with him?
Yeah, he had his partner over there. Another one of my mutual friends. He over there. I got my boy with me. I got the homie with me and shit. So it's 4 of us up in there.
Oh, so it's 4 of you. So
yeah.
You brought somebody with you.
Yeah, I
okay.
brought my homie with me. You know what I mean? Some backup.
Right. Now let me just ask you real quick. Now you said that you didn't. When you went to this house, it didn't dawn on you that he might have been armed. You think that sometimes come from, like when we out in the street and we active and we busting our gun, we be feeling ourselves.
That and just arrogance, you know what I mean? Because again, now that I look back on it, there's no way I'm finna let somebody into my home, especially knowing what kind of cat I was, if I wasn't armed.
Right.
But again, knowing the type of guy that I was, I wouldn't even let me in.
Right, right.
You wouldn't came in my house. You ain't getting nothing there.
And that's what I was trying to say too, because I know, like, sometimes, man, the more we do, the more we do in the streets and get away with, sometimes it go to our head, man. And busting that gun sometimes it's like a drug and it's like adrenaline. So
Absolutely.
we get, like you say, we get arrogant. We get the thinking that we can't be touched.
That's one thing. Like with me back in them days, I used to drink and I used to smoke, and alcohol in that 357, it was a bad combination for me.
Bad combination.
Like I went in there, with that Magnum, and I felt like King Kong, like Denzel felt in Training Day.
Right. Okay, so go ahead. I hate to interrupt, but I had to slide that in there, so go ahead.
Yeah, so, when I went in there, like I said, I was like, at that time, I was pretty good with my hands, so I don't even know why I got my Magnum. I'm still thinking about punching on somebody, you know what I mean? It might have been because I was drinking that night and we were smoking. We sat there, we was watching the Lakers game, so, we was smoking weed. I think I had a few drinks before I went over there. In fact, I did have a few drinks before I went over there, so the alcohol and the weed might have had me, it definitely had me impaired.
Right.
Had me, not thinking straight. So, I had on the windbreaker. I had my gang attire on, my khakis, my windbreaker and all that. And so when I got up to take my jacket off, he went for his pistol. So I had to come out like quick draw.
Yeah.
As soon as before my pistol left all the way out of my pocket, I was firing rounds.
Yeah.
I used to practice that shit sometimes.
Right.
So I tried to shoot all 6 rounds, but I managed to get all 5 before I got shot.
Okay, hold on. So you say you got shot, so I guess when you whipped out, they was ready and they whipped out too.
It was almost like, it happened so fast. I couldn't say who drew first. It's almost like we did simultaneously, because when I stood up to start taking my jacket off, I seen him motioning. So I wouldn't wait until to see what he was doing.
Right.
So I whipped out and started popping. When I did, my homies started popping too, and then they both started shooting too. So it just turned into okay, correct.
Cold shootout up in there, huh?
Cold shootout.
Damn. So okay, once this shootout happens, what happened next? I mean, what's the next thing you remember?
After that, after the shooting started, I remember getting hit. I remember once I got hit, it felt like somebody cracked me across the head with a sledgehammer. And before I lost consciousness, I remember my last thoughts was, damn, I ain't gonna never be able to see my mom and my kids. And bam, I went out.
That's deep.
I don't know how long I was out, and what woke me up is I was snoring so loud. That's what actually woke me up. And so when I regained consciousness, I was laid out in a prone position. So when I went to get up in a push-up position, my whole left side was paralyzed. It couldn't move. So as I'm trying to get up in a push-up position, I'm looking at my left side, and I'm like, why is it not moving? But I got my gun in my hand still, so I'm listening and trying to see if I see anybody. I don't hear anybody. I don't see anything at that moment.
So real quick, so at this point in time, you still aware of that you didn't been in the shootout?
Absolutely, I'm fully aware that I've been in the shootout.
Okay.
So I got my gun in my hand still. So after I saw that there was nobody else moving, I couldn't get up. So now I'm going to panic mode, and I'm trying to figure out how in the hell I'm gonna get up out of here before the police come.
Right.
So once I realized that that's not gonna happen, so now the next thing I gotta do is get the paramedics in. I gotta get the ambulance because I need some medical attention.
Right.
But I'm gonna back up for a minute, because after I get up, after I regain conscious, I see a puddle of blood, and I don't realize that it's my blood, because I'm bleeding profusely. I'm thinking it's sweat coming off my face, but it's blood.
Wow.
Because I got hit in the head, so I'm leaking. So I'm looking at this blood. I'm like, damn, whoever bleeding like this ain't gonna make it.
Wow.
Not realizing that it's me.
Right.
So I'm looking around. I can't see anything. I don't hear anything. Then I hear a faint moaning. I hear somebody moaning, like but I can't see nobody because he's behind a couch. So now I don't realize that, I don't know at this time that I got off 5 rounds. So I don't know how many bullets I have left. So I'm starting to, I want to shoot through the couch. But I'm like, nah, because if I shoot through the couch and I don't get him, then they can come finish me off because I'm laid here.
Right.
So I let him leave. I hear the moans until I can't hear him no more. So I let him crawl outside.
So the other dude who was hit was moving. And
yeah, he's moaning behind the couch.
Okay, man.
So he's dragging himself outside. So once he drug himself outside, I look over across the room on the floor and I see a phone. So I managed to drag myself to the phone. And after I dragged myself to the phone, and I called 911. And at this time, you know, I don't know if anybody called 911 before, but you know, I had to call it a couple times because the line busy. At this time, you know, it's two 357 magnums going off, 2 9mm, and a shotgun. These are all the weapons we fired while we was up in there. So after all these shots going off, the neighbors, everybody's calling 911.
Okay, unbeknownst to you.
Unbeknownst to me.
Oh, okay.
So this is why it's busy.
Right. Okay.
So when I finally get through to 911, you know, of course they, you know, your address pops up on the screen. I don't know this at the time, but they actually, you know, the confirmation to the address. I'm telling them I don't know where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just telling them to get the paramedics here. So they ask me all kind of questions like, "What's your name?" All this kind of stuff. I'm ignoring all that stuff because, you know, again, I have the wherewithal not to tell them myself, basically.
Right.
So once I realized that the paramedics is on their way there, I still got my gun in my hand. So now I know, okay, the police is coming. So I managed to wipe my fingerprints off my gun, you know, with the little strength that I do have, you know, with the carpet, and then I throw the gun as far away from me as I can get, you know, because I know the police coming. I don't want the gun over there by me.
Right.
And the police coming. And it's strange how criminality still kicks in at a time like this.
Right.
So once I throw the gun over there, I'm laying there waiting for the paramedics to come. The paramedics to come. But of course, the Linwood sheriffs get there before the paramedics, or maybe they came simultaneously. But the Linwood sheriffs came in there. They walk in. They see me laying there, and they kick me straight in the face.
Hold on, the police kick you in the face?
The police kicked me in the face and told me, they said, "Tell me what happened or we're going to let you die."
Man.
And I just started hollering because I couldn't believe that they trying to kill me as opposed to render medical aid.
Right, man.
So I'm hollering and all that shit. So, you know, then I don't know, they you know, did a little investigation, whatever they do. Then the paramedics came in there and they started working on me. And then I remember going in and out of consciousness, and the police is asking me the paramedics asking me questions like, "Where you got hit?" I'm like, "All over."
Yeah.
You know, just get me to the hospital.
Yeah, just give me some damn attention.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Man.
Yeah, so, then, you know, they strapped me to the gurney, rushed me on to the hospital, St. Francis.
Right. So did everybody survive in this situation, or?
3 of us survived, 1 died.
So was everybody hit?
Everybody was hit.
Man, so okay, if you can, like, where was everybody hit?
Well, I got hit in the head.
So that was the only gunshot wound you suffered?
Yeah, I suffered 1 gunshot wound to the head.
Okay.
My homie, he get hit in the stomach, I believe. It was
the brother you took with you?
Yeah, my homie I took with me. He got hit. It was a through and through for him, so he kind of was all right. And then the other cats, but both them two, they got hit multiple times. You know, so the one who died, Dre, he got it the worst. You know what I mean? Because he got hit a couple of times with the Magnum. I hit him a couple of times. My boy hit him a couple of times. Then my boy hit him with the gauge too.
Man, so y'all took a gauge in there with y'all?
No, we took his gun. He got shot with his own gun.
Oh, wow, so it was only cracking up in there, huh?
Yeah.
Man, wow. And so obviously the police, they take you to the hospital or whatever, you know, they harass you, beating on you, and so then eventually how does it play out that you get charged with all the crimes?
Well, you know, at that time, you know, 2 cats, they started cooperating right away, you know, because I guess they thought I was dead too, you know what I mean, because I got hit in the head, so, you know, I don't know what the police told them at the time, but, you know, they started cooperating right away.
Right.
And so that's how I ended up getting charged.
So, of course, if 2 of them is cooperating, one of them is one of the ones you took with you?
Yeah, my homie did, you know what I mean, so, yeah, he started cooperating right away, you know what I mean, so, you know, at the time, you know, I was upset, you know what I mean, because, you know, that's one thing as a gang member that you don't do. It's always death before dishonor.
Right.
You know, they call it whoever get down first.
Right. So, at the time you felt that he betrayed you, do you still feel he betrayed you, or?
Not now. Today, you know what I mean, I'm much more knowledgeable of, you know, just things. So I think he did what was best for him at that time.
Okay, so I got a question I want to ask you though. So how foolish were we, and how foolish is anybody today if they think anyone's going, or if they think everybody's gonna stick to the code?
You set yourself up for failure if you think everybody gonna stick to the code. No one stick to the code. Look what Sammy Gravano did. He was the number 2 man in the Gambino family in Snitch.
Right. And okay, now that you mention that, and his reasoning was he told basically because he heard the tapes, John Gotti was trying to throw him in front of the bus. My take on that is, when you take the code is not it's not contingent upon what the next individual is gonna do. The code is for you yourself. You know, you got some dude saying, "Oh man, I wouldn't have told, but my buddies did this, my buddies did that." But the code is not for what the next man is gonna do. The code is for you know, something that we take personally.
Right. You know, it's like I said, it's death before dishonor. You know, you're supposed to die before you tell them. You know, one thing with gang members, you know what I mean, in my days, you never ran out and you didn't snitch.
Right.
Those are 2 things you didn't do.
Right. So you up in the I guess the jail hospital, the jail ward or whatever.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you know, you healed, I guess, enough to the point where when do they come and let you know that you being charged with just shooting and all that?
Well, they told me I was charged with. They read me my rights and formally charged me after I got out of surgery, which was probably the next morning, because this happened like shooting took place like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and then after surgery and all that, so probably it was the next day, and they formally charged me.
Wow.
I was in county jail ward, 13th floor, USC Medical Center.
Right. So you end up staying in the ward. Did you ever make your way back down to the county jail, or you?
Yeah. After I was stable enough to leave the county hospital, then they sent me to Man Central Jail, and then they have a ward in there called 8100. That's where people in wheelchairs. I was in a wheelchair. I was paralyzed, so that's why I ended up going.
Right. So how long did you stay in there fighting these charges?
I fought the charges for roughly like 2 years.
So did you end up taking the deal?
Yeah, I ended up taking a deal. No, I went to trial. I got convicted at trial, and that's something I regret, not taking a deal. You know, because I put a bid on.
What did they offer you?
Well, my first deal was 14 years, which is a beautiful deal, but I couldn't see it at that time because I was like, how I'm getting 14 years and I got shot.
Right. So at the time, probably due to gang banging thinking and being in the street, you saw yourself as a victim as well.
Absolutely, because this is how uninformed I was. I thought that if I got into a shootout with someone, that it was self-defense, not realizing what I did. I actually went into someone's home where you're supposed to feel safe and protected and took someone's life.
Right. And I think, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm quite sure California, they don't even have a self-defense law. I think they have a justifiable homicide.
Absolutely. That's
but like you say, but if you going into somebody else's house, of course they're going to view that as not being justifiable.
Right.
Because you had no business over there in the first place.
Right.
So your boy, the other brother that you took with you that got shot, did he came and cooperated and got on the stand on you?
Well, he just gave some statements. He never got on the stand. The other cat that we shot up, he ended up getting on the stand. So he corroborated my homie's testimony. I mean, he corroborated his statements.
Right. So you go to trial, you lose, they find you guilty, and you sentenced to how much time you said again?
34 years with double life consecutive.
34 years with double life consecutive. So when they find you guilty, of course, you know, you go back to the cell, they bring you back later on for a sentencing date. So how did, you know, can you remember how did it feel once, you know, you heard the judge say you getting this 34 years to life with double consecutive?
It didn't even register to me because I was like, I couldn't comprehend what that meant. I didn't understand what that meant. I knew I had life. With double life consecutive, I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't understand what that meant until years down the line.
Right.
I didn't realize that I got convicted in '92. I wasn't eligible for parole until 2019.
Damn, so you got convicted in 1992, and even though it's 2022 right now, that still sounds like a long time. So 1992, so I know it had to seem like 2019 was never gonna come.
I didn't even think about that when they told me that. I said, I'm doing what the hell I want to do. There's no way I'm finna do this sober. I'm finna be high every day, and that's what I did for like 5 years.
So did you ever think you was gonna get out, or you?
I yes and no, because I never got to the point to where I said I'm never coming home. I just didn't know when it would be, but I always try to do things to put myself in position to come home.
Right.
Like it was like a lot of my friends at that time went to prison when we, back in those days, when we got sentenced, you know, we was like, you know, when I can't wait to get up there on the 4-yard, you know, I'm gonna get my strap, my bone crusher, my flag, and those was my aspirations. I'm gonna get my bone crusher, my flag, I'm gonna go up there, I'm gonna represent.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna get tatted, I'm gonna do all this stuff. You know, I went up there with the flag and the bone crusher, but I didn't do all the tats. I did everything else. I participated in everything you can think of in prison. You know, I did everything that you can do to keep yourself in prison until I realized that it was time for me to go home.
Right.
Then I had to start making changes.
Right.
Did some introspection. Said, look, I can't continue to keep doing these things that I'm doing while I'm here if I ever want to get out. But then, you know, another one of my things was I felt like I was abandoning my homies.
Right.
So, you know, because, you know, a lot of people in prison, including myself, we deal with abandonment issues. So I didn't want to abandon my homies like I had been abandoned.
Right. So when you say that you didn't want to abandon your homies, are you talking about once you made that process to start stepping away from certain activities that would extend your stay in prison and start doing things that would help you go home? Because a lot of cats don't know, you know, like you say, which is really, now that I think about it, it's on the street too. You can't serve two masters.
Absolutely.
You can't gang bang and then turn around. And I had a lot of friends who would do this. They gang banging in prison, but they go into the self-help classes too. It don't make no sense.
Nah, you can't. Just like today, you know, like these dudes now, these rappers. You know, you want to be a rapper, then you want to be a gangster. You talking about you rapping about these things that you saying you're doing in the streets, but you're not doing those things because you don't have time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I've never yet to this day I've never seen a successful part-time gang member and part-time drug dealer. You do one or the other.
Right, right. And that was a saying back in our days too. Gang banging and selling dope don't mix.
No, you can. I mean, I tried it, and it just you know you gonna have like if you a real gang member, you actually out there doing that kind of stuff. Then people gonna be dependent on you to keep that going on. So you want to get out there because once you start having money and having that good life, you're not trying to go out there and kill people and do all that kind of stuff. It's bad for business.
Right.
And you have to interact with the enemies to get the money.
Right.
So there's no way you're gonna be able to combine these two things. I tried, it didn't work.
Right.
Well, it didn't work for me. So you know, what I mean, I don't see how these dudes are saying they doing these things. You know. So.
Right. Because in the California prisons, like I was saying, you know, if you own the yard, you hanging with the homies, and you caught up in the activities, and then you taking the self-help, it doesn't make sense because in order to get out, they want us free. For those who are lifers, we have to go to the board, and they want us free, at least disciplinary free, at least 5 years.
Absolutely.
So the second, now, if you hanging with the homies, the second one of the homies do something crazy, and you guys get caught up in a situation, all the time and years you've been spending going to self-help now,
Wiped away.
wiped away, because they're going to wonder, well, what happened? You was taking these anger management classes. Why didn't you use none of your tools or your skills?
Coping skills.
Yeah, when this situation brought itself up. So yeah, that's good, man. And so eventually, of course, you end up staying out the way and you end up coming home, huh?
Yeah, it took me a while, you know, but again, I started making some changes. You know, it's like the loyalty I had for my homies. You know, I started applying that same loyalty to myself and my family, the people who really loved me and cared about me,
Right.
who was there for me.
Right. And so a lot of cats don't know. Sometimes you may hear me on my stories talking about it was me and a few individuals. We used to work out every day. This is one of the brothers right here, Johnny Baker, Scotty, and another brother by the name of Dewey. And we used to go out there. We all had life, and we all end up paroling. But we used to go out there, and there was a log that was sticking out the ground. And so we just started saying log in, you know, we go over there, we work out every morning, we do our push-ups, and we talk and try to change our mindset and help each other when it was time for us to go to the board. Because, you know, by that time, the parole board had changed and they had started letting lifers out. And so actually, the day that I came home, he went to the board and they found him suitable.
Yes, that was a beautiful day.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a beautiful day right there. Yes, sir.
And so, man, once again, it's glad to see you home, man. Is what's the most thing that you cherish now? You know that you home.
Just spending time with my family, being able to take care of my family. You know, just the things that a normal human being supposed to do, a responsible person supposed to be doing. Those are the things I really enjoy the most.
Right. And so, how much time did you actually end up doing?
I did 28 years.
28 years, man. Hey, well, you know, I already know that you're gonna stay out here. You're gonna enjoy this freedom, man. It's glad to see you out here, homie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Much love. You already know what it is, man. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.